Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 265 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on July 1st, 2025. Hope you're all doing well. Short week this week, of course. We have a holiday on Friday. Awesome, July 4th. I think maybe a shorter podcast too. We're going to try. Need to hit the technical discussion for the Engaged Industries Operator 556. That white paper was published last week. And then after that, I want to quickly give a recap of where we're sitting right now in silencer performance and where we're probably going, I think. And I want to do that just to regroup really quickly, just big picture. And what we're going to do is we'll use real data record to substantiate opinion, right? I don't want to use conjecture. I want to go back at least a year into the record to see what we're seeing, and it'll inform, I think, where we're going. And that's the whole point of this effort. And I think it's prudent to every once in a while speak about it. Okay, just educated observation for you. Nothing crazy, but let's see. I thought about maybe not doing an episode this week just because, gosh, I think we did almost a 50 test program recently. It's just been really blowing and going. It's been nuts. But I think, we're about to have a holiday, and which is a great break. And I know we have data coming up again next week. So I didn't want to get too far behind. So I think it's a good thing to do. So we'll get this episode out and it'll be good. We'll have some fun. Okay. So sound good? All right. Now on with the show. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you're new to the podcast, man, you're joining Silencers in such a tumultuous time, but such a great time, an exciting time. So welcome. I'm glad you're here. Just so you know, there are timestamps in the episode description, so you can skip to wherever you're like, whatever topic you would like. You can skip these ads that I'm about to read right now if you want. You don't have to listen to me. But if you want to and hang around and listen to me tell you about some of these companies that make this podcast possible every week. This is the 265th episode. It's nuts. The grassroots support that Pew Science has as well, and this podcast has, shows the good of humanity. It's awesome. Because, as always, this podcast is brought to you by Legion Athletics. Nothing you do, exercise, sports, silencer analysis, physics, is worth doing without consistency. You have to do things all the time if you want to be good at them. Legion Athletics can help you with that. Whey protein, pre-workout, post-workout, vitamins, creatine, all kinds of stuff. They don't have everything you need, but they have a lot of it. I literally just finished a pretty good powerlifting workout. What is some of the stuff I use from Legion? The pre-workout. I use the creatine. In the mornings, I like to take some of the different vitamin supplements they have that are tailored to what I need. Always talk to your doctor about that type of stuff too. But legionathletics.com, there's a link in the show notes. Code word Pew Science. You get buy one, get one 50% off of your entire shopping cart, and you get 20% cash back forever using the code again and again. So it's great. I mean, I use this stuff anyway, so I'd be doing it anyway. I encourage you to. And if you need that stuff, check out Legion. Their ingredients are clean. If you are a tested athlete, if you compete in a drug-tested federation, for example, or drug-tested sport, all Legion products are screened and they won't make you fail your drug test. So that's really important. Okay. This podcast is also brought to you by Silencer Shop. They are the largest distributor of silencers probably in the world. They do endorse Pew Science. And what that means is that they see the value in what we're doing, and we are thankful for that. If you are a dealer and you're looking to get started in the space and you don't want to carry a lot of overhead, Silencer Shop can help you with their kiosk. Your customers love it. They can do their fingerprints and everything electronically. The errors are pretty low because of the system. And they don't pay any transfer fees when they buy from you, which is a big thing too. No one likes to pay those. We're not in the dark ages anymore. So no transfer fees, no paperwork errors, just you and your silencer with no drama. Truly silencer ownership simplified. And Top Gun Range is a silencer shop dealer in Houston. They're very big, and something that's important about Top Gun Range is that they provide the opportunity to actually shoot the silencers on the guns in their 15-lane indoor shooting range, huge inventory, and the people that work there are actually gun guys and girls. They actually know what they're talking about. You're not talking with some kind of faceless salesman who kind of knows a little bit about silencers and just is trying to sell you something to make money. These guys love shooting suppressed. And they're going to steer you right. And they endorse this podcast and they endorse Pew Science, so they understand real data and analysis. They're not just selling you because Bubba thought it was a good silencer. No, nothing wrong with Bubba, but at the same time, Bubba might not be educated. Kyle and his crew at Top Gun Range are, okay? Check them out, topgunrange.com. Capital Armory is a big dealer. They're here in Texas, and we like them. They've been a really good dealer for a very long time in Texas, and one of the very special things about Capital Armory is that they, like Top Gun Range, they're actually gun guys too. So there are people that sell silencers that really they say they understand silencers, and they talk about being into guns and being into hunting, and they put on a good show, but no, they're not genuine. The people at Capital Armory actually are. They will try their best to sell you something that actually performs well, and they actually use Pew Science data to do it, which is cool. And one big thing that Capital Armory can do is they can deliver silencers directly to your door. If you live in one of the 42 states where silencers are legal, you can order a silencer on their website from your living room and have the silencer shipped directly to that living room. It's crazy. Yeah, it really is that easy. Capital Armory, silencer shipped directly to your door. And finally, the podcast is brought to you by the Pew Science Laboratory. This is one of 2 laboratories that I run professionally. And Pew Science has been going on for around 5 years. We're in our 5th year of operation publicly. It's going pretty well. I'm excited about it, and it's in large part to all you folks listening to this podcast and all the sponsors that I just read, and also due to all the members we have. We have chosen to continue doing this, and our goal is to push the silencer industry forward one test at a time. You can visit our website at pewscience.com. We have invented the suppression rating and published it there. It is the simplest and most accurate hearing safe rating for suppressed small arms, completely objective, and it's awesome. It's a constant for the past 5 years. It's one scale. You don't have to worry about all kinds of different metrics. All you have to use is that. It's based on true human inner ear response of the entire gunshot, from before combustion takes place all the way until all the combustion is gone. It's the home of the silencer sound standard, guys. pewscience.com, 7 sections. It's the most in-depth and accurate silencer data analysis in the world, all available to the public 24/7 on the website. And you can support this podcast and Pew Science and the public testing we do by joining with a membership at pewscience.com. It's really easy to do. And if you're not into memberships, that's cool. You can do a one-time donation on the review page or the podcast page. And you know what? If you're not into that, that's cool too. You don't have to spend any money at all. Just give the podcast a good rating on Spotify or iTunes or YouTube or Facebook or Smoke Signals or whatever you get your information. Spread the word. Let folks know that silencers and guns are awesome. That's 8 minutes of me telling you about stuff. It's a long time, but I don't like to interrupt the rest of the podcast with ads, so I feel like it's good balance. Oh, excuse me. Okay, so it's pretty late for me tonight. So what we're going to do, we're going to hit these 2 topics. First, we're going to go Engage Industries Operator 556 technical talk. Interesting silencer. And then we'll talk about, I just want to tell you that testing is going really well. And I want to just mention that, but I want to also give like a quick state of the industry really quick, okay? At least maybe state of the research. We'll do that next. So let's move into topic 1. At a time of 8 minutes and 50 seconds. Okay, not too shabby, I guess. Topic 1, Sound Signature Review 6192, the Engaged Industries Operator 556 on the Mark 18. Smaller diameter silencers might be making a comeback. Well, they're not. But this is one of them. So the question is, does this silencer bring competitive performance to a crowded market? And I'll let you be the judge of that. I can give my opinion. So let's get into this technical discussion. This paper was published last week, on Wednesday of last week. That would be June 25th. It's now July 1st. Okay, so, I've said this before. I'm going to say it again now. The Mark 18 is actually pretty awesome. It really is. It only has a 10.3 inch barrel, but its dwell time isn't that long, right? So we kind of get a cool performance evaluation of a silencer when we use it, because it really puts silencers to the test, from the high pressure combustion, obviously. And it's a pretty fair platform when it comes to operator protection because of that dwell time balance. And so overall, over all these years of using it for the research, I feel like it's proven its worth. I never thought I'd say that about a Mark 18, but it's pretty cool. So I am happy we have it. I am happy we have the Mark 18. We've been doing some interesting testing with it lately. So you're going to see some stuff in the future. Just hang tight. I know how hard it is to wait for new data analysis sometimes. You feel like a kid at Christmas, and it's July, and you have to wait, and I know that sucks. But trust me when I say it's going to be worth it. For the subject of this topic, the Operator 556 from Engage Industries, I think we get to harken back to a time of 1.5-inch diameter silencers, which was a great time in history, I think, and they still do exist. There are a lot of famous ones. And this silencer, the Operator 556, it's a bit interesting to me because it's extremely simple, and it almost reminds me of a Form 1 silencer in some ways. Just the raw, I'm going to make this type of thing. And it does have some interesting features. The first thing is the mount. They call it the Stealth Lock QD. It is a taper mount, in fact, but the mount assembly rotates when you tighten the silencer on the muzzle device. Yeah, when I say mount assembly, it's the portion of the mount system that is attached to the silencer. It rotates when you rotate the silencer on the muzzle device. And when that mount assembly rotates in the silencer, it screws into the silencer, so it moves forward, and in doing so, there's little lugs on the muzzle device. They get put into compression with a little tab thing on that assembly, and what that does is it further locks the muzzle device to the taper. So essentially, you have a taper mount with secondary retention with one-handed operation, right? And so to unlock it, what you do is you just unscrew the silencer the other way, obviously after it's cooled down, or if it's hot still, you can use gloves, and hopefully you don't burn the gloves, when you're done shooting, whatever. But when you do that, the mount, you just unscrews, because the mount system in the silencer unscrews in the silencer, and then it relieves the compression on the lugs, and then you can just simply remove it from the muzzle device. It's sort of like a chemo in operational concept, but it is very different in that it's mechanically different, and it is much smaller and much lighter. I would say those are the big differences. So, and it was interesting. The taper seems to seal fine too, and so secondary retention in a simple manner, like the way they did this, I think can be pretty cool. So, when we see a new type of mount like this, I do think it's worth highlighting that. I know that's not, the signature performance or anything, but this is different enough to where I think it's worth talking about. When, and you'll notice some things. The rotational stop for the internal rotating part of the mount, it's an index roll pin. So from that respect, we know just mechanically that every time you tighten the silencer on the mount, it will be stopping in the same place on the mount. So that's good for repeatability. But that would only work if you would put it on in the same orientation every time before you start to tighten it. So you could, if you were so inclined, you could take like a paint pen and then paint pen your mount, or let me think about a better way to do that. Maybe what you do is you paint pen your silencer, and then you make that paint pen mark top dead center when you put it on the mount, and then you screw it so you put it on the same way every time, because it's going to stop at the same place every time, which is cool. You just need to make sure you start in the same place every time if you want to make sure that you are getting perfectly repeatable rotational axial alignment. You know what I mean? Because most taper mounts are actually pretty close. You don't have to worry about it. If you start at the same point like that, I think this is just worth mentioning. It's a little different than the secondary retention mounts from Knights or Surefire, right? Because those have an index pin or a protrusion on the mount that breaks the seal. So like basically when you have a Knight's can or a Surefire rifle can, you can only start on in one direction, or I'm sorry, one orientation because of the key notch. So when it comes to those silencers, they have a very repeatable point of impact shift taking on and off the silencer because they have guaranteed start and stop of orientation. You see where I'm getting with that? So when we talk about secondary retention latches, comparing and contrasting the different mechanics can be important. Anyway, all of this is not something that the manufacturer highlighted to me at all. It's simply something I noticed when I was messing with it, and then when we tested it, I noticed it, and I've had some time with it. I thought you should know about it. I'm thinking maybe the more we talk about this type of thing, maybe it's going to inspire others too if they're going to look into do different mounts. It's cool to have innovation and different ideas. One moment. And so physical characteristics of the silencer, I've already told you, 1.5 inches in diameter. With the mount, it weighs 15.8 ounces, so you're under a pound total, which is good. Whole thing is 6.375 inches long, excluding the end tines on the end cap. Okay, it does have end tines on the end cap. I believe those are wrench features to remove the end cap if you need to replace it, if you ding it or get an end cap strike. Remember, baffle strikes are to baffles, end cap strikes are to end caps. If you get an end cap strike, it is not a baffle strike, it is an end cap strike. What is the most common strike in a silencer? Is always the end cap. Why? Because the alignment of the end cap to the bore has the greatest chance of being out of round because it's further away. So angle differential will grow as you move further from the muzzle orifice. It's literally just math. So that's why you may want to be able to remove an end cap for replacement, and that's why they do that. So anyway, you're not that big, you're not that heavy, and that's important because the performance of this silencer is in a range where that kind of matters. If you're keeping score, in total system envelope, if you're looking at form factor, which as a big peg point for your decision making for your silencers, and I think a lot of people are nowadays, you might need to start to pay attention to more than just the suppression rating. Hint. I mean, we know we always want to pay attention to more than the suppression ratings, but total system envelope can be important. I think we're getting to the point in silencer technology where form factor is getting to be an important differentiator. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit in the next topic. You know what? That's true, actually. And before I forget, just in case I forget to mention it later, there's an erratum, an addition. There was an omission in the report, and it's my fault. When comparing, basically, we added a sentence to the end of research note 11 in the report. When comparing the Operator 556 to other stuff on the market, I think we omitted a silencer that I think is important to note. The Centurion Arms Maximus L. I think it needs to be in the conversation. The reason I missed it when I was writing that is because I was looking at comparisons that were like the same length or shorter. And the Centurion Arms Maximus L is like ever so slightly longer than the Operator 556, but not by much. I think, in fact, if you include the end tines of the Operator 556, they might be the same length, or maybe the Operator 556 is longer. And I didn't even think about that. So when you compare the Operator 556 side by side, the Centurion Arms silencer, which granted it's 1.6 inches in diameter, not 1.5, the Centurion Arms silencer greatly outperforms this silencer. And the form factor is very similar. In fact, I think it's close in weight. And it's probably stronger and more durable. So I think you need to know that. I mean, and look, Engage Industries as a client, Centurion Arms as a client. I'm not playing favorites. It's literally, they both tested with us. It's fine. I think it's important that We be complete when we give comparisons that are contextual like that one. And so I did want to tell you we have added that to the article since you read it. Yeah, was that all I wanted to say about that? I think it is. Okay, let's get into how this thing works and why it is doing what it's doing, and maybe also why it's not doing what some folks would want it to be doing, if that's a good way to say that. Okay, so go ahead and pull up the report 192 on the website. If you're a member, please, by all means, pull up the full member version. You get more data and analysis. You don't have any ads in the report body, and you get the personal feeling of satisfaction of a job well done by supporting the research. We salute you. Nah, if you're not a member, that's cool, dude. Just no man, woman, or child left behind. Pull up the free version. It's fine. Excuse me. Bottom line up front, 28.2 muzzle suppression rating, 1 meter left of the end cap, 1.6 meters above the ground in the true free field mil standard configuration. 23.6 suppression rating, 6 inches right of the shooter's right ear, again, mil standard. That brings us to a composite suppression rating of 29.9 on the standard untuned Mark 18. Remember, what is the standard untuned Mark 18? If you're just joining us, it has a 10.3 inch barrel, an H2 buffer, an 070 gas port. It is very important that you take note of all these things. And because it's not just lip service. I'm not just telling you because for completeness. I'm actually telling you because it makes a huge difference. It really matters. And just as an aside, I'm going to share something with you that's technical and correct. And people will argue about this all day, and I don't care because I'm going to tell you the facts, the cold, hard facts. If you are shooting a standard AR-15 with a silencer and you are not using at least an H2 buffer, meaning a buffer that weighs at least the weight of an H2, you are leaving performance on the table, meaning specifically you are compromising operator protection. We have, and I'm speaking from recent stuff. We have had several, more than one internal client test programs in which special rifles were sent to us for internal non-public testing that you're not seeing. And the rifles had buffer weights that were lighter than H2. In some cases, they went all the way to carbine weight buffer, which is around 3 ounces, where an H2's heavier. Go look up the weights. I don't remember. In those tests, the performance was subpar, and specifically, we saw early time shock loads of the shooter from the breech of the weapon before muzzle blast. Like think what you can do with a war comp, but from the breech. Understand what I'm saying? I mean, you guys, you've been with us long enough, you understand these terms. So please, I implore you, pay attention to buffer weight when shooting suppressed. There are people that tell, well, you need to have an H2 buffer because, when suppressed, it'll be more reliable. That might be true. I don't know for your particular system, but I can tell you if you have a standard gun, like a standard Mark 18 or like a standard M4, and you just have a carbine weight buffer in there and you put a Surefire RC2 in your gun, or a Engage Industries, whatever, or a Trash Panda, or whatever you do, you put a silencer on your gun and it's a standard AR host, you better hope you have enough inertial resistance in early time. Remember, inertial resistance starts from rest. Spring resistance increases in accordance with displacement. If you need help with this, look at the standard differential equation for a single degree of freedom system. Okay? You have, or let's go even more simple. F equals MA. Okay. The mass starts from rest. Okay. What's spring force? Spring force equals the spring constant times displacement. Okay. Figure it out, guys. All right. Or just listen to me. Either way, you can talk all day, your opinion, what you think happens, or you can just do the math. It's not opinion. It's literally physics. Pay attention. Okay, so 28.2 at the muzzle, 23.6 at the ear. Okay, not super loud, but also not super quiet by any means, right? So let's look at some data and we'll talk about what's inside of it. What's inside? The numbers, what do they mean? Okay, I'm so tired, dude. Okay, figure 1, let's go. Figure 1, you scroll down, it's blast overpressure. That's right. Figure 1, blast overpressure in the free field, full-time regime. Figure 1A, nothing largely remarkable here is presenting at first glance. You will see some things that you start to poke their head out. Bolt speed seems relatively reasonable. The ground reflection is nested, but it does start to peak out. Okay, that's a little bit of a clue. Seems like this thing is dumping momentum kind of quickly. Nothing wild so far, though. So let's zoom in. Enhanced. You know, you see those, like, it's funny when like the movies are like enhance and like something's really blurry and they look up on the screen and like all of a sudden it's really sharp. No, but we can do that because we actually have high resolution data. Figure 1B is the enhanced look at the early time. That's what we sample every microsecond, so we can show these pretty pictures. Okay, figure 1B, very consistent precursor components, right? Very good. The exit jets are very consistent. Very good sign, frankly. Now, FRP divergence does happen fairly quickly, but it's not crazy. It actually seems pretty controlled. It looks like we're approaching peak pressure in shot 2 pretty early, which, you know, kind of is a foreshadowing thing, kind of agrees with some of our gas dump load shape in figure 1A. And so we're probably dumping gas kind of fast, but in a relatively controlled way too, which is good. So, you know, you start to form these hypotheses, and then you scroll down and you look at figure 2 with the blast momentum transfer potential or impulse. You look at that and you start to see the same story. Very consistent accumulation and actually incredible post FRP consistency. And you're like, okay, it's pretty good. The FRP is there. You cannot hide it, but you're really not getting too high above the peak of subsequent shots. So this silencer seems like it might have a little bit of a trick up its sleeve, right? Maybe. It has some signs of the edges of high performance. You're like teetering, right? You're approaching. But it's not super quiet. But it's competitive with several things, though. So it's one of those things where like, ooh, they have something. This is what I see. When I see things like this, I'm like, ooh, okay, they're onto something. How far can they go with this? So what's it doing and how's it doing it? So, you know, when you look at this, and I have it in front of me, it's not that big. It's cool. When you look in the first expansion chamber of the silencer, or, you know, people call that the blast chamber, which is fine. You're going to see some standard straight notched cones. And if you look carefully, you go all the way into the baffle wall throat. What do you see? You're going to see vents. Yeah, that's right. You're venting around the outer circumference of the baffle. You're clearing blast load off of that first reflector, which is really good. I don't know the exact venting progression through the stack. I haven't x-rayed the thing. I've just borescoped it. But I would imagine they would do a little more venting, I think in the next one. Not sure. What we know from the data and just from looking in the silencer that it's congruent behavior, what we know is that early venting is helping flow rate, and if they continue it enough through the stack, it can certainly help. One of the challenges here is that the geometry is pretty simple straight cones and the volume's low. So you're going to need all the help you can get to relieve stagnation that's occurring. Okay, think RC2. What do they have to do? It's kind of wild, right? It's a small volume silencer. What do they have to do? They get wild. And so I think this is one of the ways where the Operator 556 can fall a little bit short because they're probably not utilizing significant annular space, and they're not doing it in a way that's enough early in time. And that limitation is holding it back a little bit. Not a ton, but a little bit. And just to give you some context, I know I mentioned the RC2, but let's kind of give the Engaged Industries some love here. Maybe not some love, but I want to give you some context. And I'm going to pick on something. Q Southpaw. Okay. Q Southpaw is bigger than this, right? And it kind of performs similarly. So it just goes to show some little tweaks can make a difference. And why? Well, you know, the Southpaw just has simple cones in it too. And it's higher volume, like by a lot. But if you get a little more creative with vent structures, think about what you could do with a southpaw. You could probably make a southpaw a lot better if you really wanted to. If you wanted to make a southpaw way better, and you, I don't know, followed Pew Science for 5 years and like listened to the podcast and read the articles, you could make a killer southpaw. Look at this Engaged Industries silencer. It is reducing back pressure compared with a larger volume southpaw, and it's smaller. So how's that for an old wives' tale completely destroyed? Yeah, you have lower back pressure with similar suppression and in a smaller volume? Weird. It's almost completely contrary to what folks used to think was possible and would tell everybody. Yeah. Why? Because it's not about volume, it's about clearing blast load. Yes. Blast load expansion is only one mechanism. Clearing of blast load is incredibly important. It goes hand in hand. Do not forget it. Okay. Early venting is important. Yeah, I'm telling you, topic 2, you're going to see what I'm telling you. All the new stuff, it's all hybrid. It's all hybrid. You're going to get left behind. Okay. One thing that's interesting, and that one thing that's really cool about this simple early venting they do in the silencer is that I think it's helping the FRP a little bit. The FRP is not terrible with the silencer. It's in the report. You're only about 10% more severe in FRP to bystanders on average, which is definitely not high. It's really great. I think for such a simple design, it's really great. So there's another win there. I think when you check out the shooter's ear performance in the full member report, I mean, when I'm looking at figure 3 and 4, or 3A and 3B and 4A and 4B, you're going to see centrally peaked FRP balance. And, you can see that, and you're going to see rarefaction quick. You're going to see clear ground reflection. Ejection port blast is low. It just has lower back pressure than a lot of silencers. It's not super duper low, but it's low, and but it's certainly not protecting the operator a huge amount. The operator suppression rating for the Operator 556 is only 23.6 on the Mark 18, which is not terrible by any means. I mean, it's way higher than a polonium, right? But for low back pressure silencers, it's a little bit lower, and frankly, it's because of the muzzle blast. And there's just no way around it on that short barrel. The way it is. Remember, I talked about the Mark 18 being a good test house. This is kind of why. It's really tough to do well. When you crack the code, you do well. And they've cracked a lot of it in the silencer. It's just the way they're reducing back pressure in totality, it's just sacrificing a little bit of muzzle suppression, and that is expanding to the operator. Really, if you want to reduce back pressure, you got 2 paths you can take if you still want to perform really well. You either have to reduce back pressure to insanely low levels in early time and then still do pretty good muzzle suppression, think Huxworks Flow 556K. Or you got to reduce it and make your muzzle suppression nuts, like the super high performance stuff, Centurion arms, PTR, CAT, stuff like that. Engaged Industry or big Huxworks Flow 556 instead of the 556K. You feel me? So I think Engaged Industries got part of this in their approach. I really think they did. I think they simply need a little more advanced tech to be able to get the pressure field less severe, and I think they can work on that. These blast loads in the free field are just a little too severe. The flow rate cannot get high enough to compensate, and that's where you are. It's that seesaw balance, so to speak. Now, it's not a linear seesaw. Some people say, oh, well, it's easy to make it quiet at the ear. You just make it flow faster. Like, no. It's much more complicated than that. But there is some truth to it because there is a balance. One moment. I want to take a moment. I had to, and I have to do this, and I'm sorry, Mike of Engaged Industries. I'm not picking on you. I have to do it for the completeness because you're a client. I have to do this. I had to do this with everyone. the name of the tech. They call it vacuum expansion technology. The website says, and I had to read this because I'm not sure about it. Patent pending VLB 25 baffles utilize vacuum expansion technology, which restrict the flow of gas without allowing or significantly reducing the reverse flow of gases, causing gas blowback. The gases are compressed in the distal end of the suppressor and then relieved via the end cap. It's like, yeah, a lot of that's true. I think that in principle, you're going to get gas stack doing what that description says. I think that reducing blast impulse accumulation in the first expansion chamber through baffle throat venting is the key here. I think that's the mechanism. Now, I think there might be a low pressure zone momentarily, but the word vacuum threw me off a little. I think it's a misnomer, but I would, and I'm not saying it's impossible by any means. I'm just saying we'd have to see internally instrumented pressure data confirm that the long duration negative phase to be meaningful. I'm just saying our data is not consistent with that. But anytime I see something with the word vacuum in it, I need to really highlight that we saw it, because people ask us, and it's like, well, no. And that's why in research note 8, oh, I'm sorry, that's a member thing, but yeah, okay, members, I talked about it in research note 8, okay? So anyway, so yeah, that's fine. I think that the Operator 556, I think it's doing okay, especially for its size. I really do. And you can look, I mean, figure 5 is the bar chart. It's becoming an eye chart. It's so big. It's very dense. So under that, what we've done is there are muzzle and ear comparison bullet points. Okay, so let's take a look at some of those. Okay, let's take a look at the muzzle. So I have here in a bullet point, it says that it produces free field bystander hazard reduction on par with the following silencers. And we just listed them. Q Southpaw, Huxworks HX QD556, LMT AT Ion LT with their 556 end cap, Silencer Velos, Otter Creek Labs Polonium 30, YHM Turbo T2, Aero Precision Lohar 30, and RC2 with a war comp. So at the muzzle, dude, it's hanging with a lot of big stuff. It really is, and it's 1.5 inches in diameter. Dude, it's hanging with the YHM Turbo T2. A lot of people love that silencer. You see, and I'm telling you, the Polonium 30. I'm telling you. Okay, free field operator shooter hazard reduction with Mark 18. Lohar 30 again, but Operator 556 has lower back pressure. Huxworks HXQD 556K. Okay, maybe that's not a good comparison. Knights NT4, Knights QDC CRS PRT, Surefire RC3. Okay. So, dude, I don't know how much these cost. But the ones that match the operator protection in the free field, the RC3 and the Knights cans, I would venture to guess that this operator 556 is a fraction of that cost. So you see what I mean? When you consider size, weight, and performance, and then you start to consider cost and all these metrics, things are evolving. This is a hybrid design, guys. I know it looks simple, and it is simple, but when you look inside, what did I talk about? Early venting, hybrid. Simply put, it's not just holes drilled in the baffle. This isn't like I won't even say it. So it's not too shabby. And some of the tech that we're comparing it to, it's old, sure. But a lot of these are super popular silencers, and they're good comparison points. When you do consider length and weight, it's interesting. Not a ton of things beat this silencer for the same weight or length. Now, remember, I talked about it earlier. One thing that does is the dang Centuria Arms Maximum L, but it beats a lot of stuff. We added to the report, like I told you earlier, 6.4 inches long, and this thing's 6.4, almost 6.4, so don't sleep on Centurion Arms. That's nuts. So I feel like the Operator 556, it's bridging the gap between old school and new hybrid. It's not quite a new advanced hybrid, but it's starting to get there with early venting. I think it has incredible consistent performance, which is, I think, slept on in our reports. When you notice consistency, I think that's important. I think it's an important distinction. You can just see what little tweaks do. All that simple work Q did with the Southpaw, and they could have really done a lot more if they just got a little more complicated. They didn't have to get that more complicated. Look at this silencer. Again, it highlights the difference between low pressure and high pressure cartridge suppression, and it highlights the difference in testing technologies. And what are you doing during R&D? Little tweaks in design can show big behavioral changes if you listen to the silencers and you get quantitative data in a high fidelity manner and you dig into it like we're doing here. We see things in this silencer that it has the signs of high performance starting to blossom. I feel like they're getting close. I think with more tweaking and advancement, I think this company could be onto something. And it's good to see. I applaud it, frankly. It takes guts to do this, I think. So good job, Engaged Industries. Competitive performer against a lot of the market in the size and weight class. Very interesting mount. A lot of good performance factors here to look at. We do thank you for trusting our laboratory to perform the work. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what you do in the future. Keep going, man. It's awesome. It's like sometimes you see designs and you're like, that is deceptively simple. And it works really well. And you're like, I don't know. Engineers, we kind of, at least I do. I like to admire simple elegance sometimes. So speaking of technological advancement, let's have a little fun. Let's dream. No. Topic 2 at a time of 41 minutes and 20 seconds. Oh, man. Okay, I thought this was going to be fast, but okay. Topic 2, man, ongoing testing has been so awesome. I've been using so many new hosts too. Oh, I can't wait to show you more. So many new silencers that are really awesome. It is like, I always say, like, what a time to be alive. And I mean it. It's like, I want to have a quick chat about this, about where we've gone over the past year and what we've seen, where we think we're going. We're about to kick off this July 4th weekend, 3-day weekend for most of you, right? Which is awesome. I'm going to talk about some things we've seen in testing as a whole, maybe forecast. I was looking at this today, and I just so happen I have the rankings table up, and this is actually serendipitous, but it works out really well for today's talk. If you go to the rankings table today on July 1st, 2025, and you sort by record number descending. So you'll have the most recent data record at the top, right? The table shown, because there's 25 per page in the current iteration of the rankings. And I think we have 215. So there's 25 records per page. This first page covers the entire year of reporting. That's serendipitous today. We're at 25 of the calendar year so far. We started off the year with what? The B&T Station 6. Actually, it goes on to the next page. It would be like the first 26 records of the year. There's 26 records this year so far, but only 25. We thought the B&T Station 6 was great timing with the United Healthcare CEO assassination. And because, USA Today had spoke with us about the silencer system, and we told them why we thought the Station 6 was not used in that assassination. And it was, in fact, not. It came out later that it was shown to be true. The dude used a conventional pistol. So that was report 6174 with 2 different configurations. And since then, we've seen some humdingers, dude. Some humdingers this year. There have been humdingers actually for 5 years, but in this calendar year so far, from January to July, boy, really good stuff. We got Vent Spiritus, Mojave 9, Otter Creek Infinity. You had wild 556 stuff. You got Maximus, Echo Zulu, some really great Brimfire stuff. So you just saw the Cat Rat on the MCX. Q Southpaw was like a big one for a lot of people. It's been interesting to see. We've hit a lot of the gamut, right? We've been everything, like not 9mm pistol, 556, 308, 300 Blackout, Rimfire. one of the big things we're seeing in the published data alone, just stuff that's published on Pew Science, is that hybrid designs are taking hold of the rankings. Right? One moment. Hybrid designs are taking hold. This year alone, I think hybrid designs had the greatest showing out of the 25 records on the first page. You can count the non-hybrid. I think it's easier to count the non-hybrid than the hybrid. That should show you something. Let's say non-hybrid. PWS BD22, Q Southpaw, Sylvan Arms, SA223 and SA30, and then Station 6. So, okay, we won't use 26. We'll use 25 to make the numbers round and easy. So, okay, all those silencers I just listed, very old technology, maybe new manufacturing twists, but let's be honest, very old technology. That's 5 out of 25. That's 20%. Okay. So on the year, 80% of the published data record has been hybrid designs. Bro. Okay. That's the gross math. Okay. So now I want you to think what that means. Now I'm going to twist your brain a little. Okay. People talk a lot about bias, right? You talk about bias, that word bias, you're familiar. Bias is a term that literally means leaning toward one side of a scale. That's all it means. That's all it means. You and let me give you an example for you youngins. You can have bias control on an electronic device. Yes? Like, think back to your stereo equipment. You remember your old tape deck, your old tape player, like with magnetic tape, like, you used to call them cassettes. Remember, you flip them over to hear the other songs. It was between records and compact discs. Anyway, between the turntable and the compact disc, we had cassettes. A whole generation of us listened to cassettes. If you have a tape deck, you probably had a bias control knob. Why? It was literally a bias knob. You would add current to a signal because the magnetic tape that you're using to play music from has nonlinear response. So you use current bias to lift up some of the signal so you can make it sound smoother and brighter, because it'll be too dull in the areas of the signal that have a lower response curve because of the nonlinearity of the magnetic tape. So you had a bias knob. So you force the response to have less dips. It would sound better. It's cool. Like, it's primitive because magnetic tape and music it was good. It's just not as good as high bitrate digital and like this compact disc. So anyway, we had to do it before CDs. So anyway, somewhere along the way, like, I wouldn't say people perverted the nature of the word bias, but they started applying it carte blanche to like only human thought. The way the term bias is used now is like almost always people are referring to someone's cognitive bias, which is fine. I mean, if someone has cognitive bias in the way they think about an idea or present an idea, people refer to them as biased, right? You add the ed on the end, and that implies someone has a bias applied to their idea or way of thinking, just like the knob on the stereo. They're forcing their way of thinking into a different regime, just like you're forcing extra current into the signal to bias. It's current bias in the electronics. It's mental bias in your brain, dude. It's just lopsiding a signal or lopsiding a situation or idea or group of something. So people ask, is Pew Science biased? Well, not cognitively. You can't be, because it's objective testing and engineering analysis. So the rankings are what they are. It's literally math. It's physics. We can't bias the rankings. It's impossible because it's math. It has no feelings cognitively. Now, if the machines become self-aware, that's different, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And I don't want to have a Terminator scenario, but ChatGPT exists. So you ask yourself, Okay, so we can, obviously there's no cognitive bias in the rankings. Now, is the data set technically biased, however, like our tape deck? Well, one could say that this year it could be called that. It could be biased this year because what? Why? Well, we literally have an 80% bias toward hybrid design silencers. It's literally the definition of the word bias is leaning toward the end of a scale or disproportionate weighting, right? Just like your stereo knob, dude, we are disproportionately weighted toward hybrid designs this year. So we're biased toward hybrid. The data set is biased toward hybrid, not biased in that it's giving them special treatment. It's biased in that they appear there. So you see in 2025, the data set has been biased toward hybrids. Now let's look at a bigger picture than that. Zoom out. I think, and we talked about this before, Pew Science data has somewhat become biased in another way. If you look at the particular subset of the data, I haven't done this math. I think that it's possible that external client testing has become biased toward high performance in the pedigree, which is it's actually a really good sign. And I was talking about this kind of with Darren from Reardon, the owner of Reardon, just because we talk big picture every once in a while. I call him, see how he's doing. He calls me, see how the family's doing. We just, every once in a while, we check in with each other to see like big picture, what the industry's doing. I talked about this before in the podcast. The theory is that there's most likely a phenomenon in which if a company is super sure their product performs well, they will come to us and have us test it and publish it. Generally, let me say that a different way. If someone is coming to us, not all the time, but a lot of the time when they come to us, they know they have a humdinger because they can hear it. And the suppression rating, more often than not, correlates with exactly what you hear. So you would think logically that the confidence they have would result in a lopsided proportion of client tests doing well, right? I was thinking about that again today in the gym. So look at this, dude. It's funny. Count the client tests on the year out of the list. Or, no, again, it's easier to count the member-funded ones. There's 5. 20%. So 80% of the stuff published in a year are client tests. Doesn't mean it's 80-20 for all the testing we've done, because it's not. It's just from what you see, it's 80-20. So we have 80-20 hybrids and 80-20 client member funding. And they almost overlap, dude. And the only things that don't overlap in those two lists are the Sylvan Arms stuff, which is client, but not hybrid, and the Dead Air Mojave tests, which are hybrid, but member-funded. It's wild, right? So out of the member-funded tests, 2 are hybrid. That's 40%. I know it's smaller sample size, but you see what I'm doing. You see what I'm doing with you? Instead of like giving conjecture and like guesses, I'm literally giving you I'm giving you like quantitative like basis. Most things are moving to hybrid, even with pseudo-random selection bias. You see what I mean? The only freaking reason you saw member-funded non-hybrid testing, I'll tell you why, literally, because B&T was important for history, and it's cool, we needed to know, and the Wolfman was important for the pedigree in history because of all the claims that Dead Air made about the Wolfman and its proliferation. It's everywhere, so you had to know what that did on the MP5, so we had to do it. And the Southpaw was important because reasons. Well, I've already told you that ad nauseum because the Q rifle silencer technology is now completely characterized by Pew Science and everyone understands it and we're done with it. So those 3 things had to be done, and that's the only reason you saw them. Otherwise, why the heck would we even test them? Because they're almost technologically irrelevant now. You see, I'm using these real cases for you because I don't want this to be some kind of weird influencer thing where you look on a YouTube video and someone posts like my reaction to silencer industry and they put a stupid thumbnail graphic with their stupid face on it with the big letters. It's just cringe to me. it's sorry, I didn't mean to alienate like a lot of people just now. Sorry, it's fine. What I'm saying is, this is real. This is a real phenomenon that we're looking at. We're now in the hybrid age, no matter where you slice it. You can claim a bias, you can claim a slant, you can claim a different sample set, whatever. But when it comes to performance, the likelihood of high performance designs being non-hybrid are low. We are in the hybrid age. Member funded, client funded, doesn't matter. Now, flip to the next page of the next 25 records in the table, going backward in time from recent to not. And you look at that, most of them are hybrid too. What does that take you back to? That takes you back a full year. So now you're July 2024 with the ninth stuff. A huge report with that, a bunch of hybrids. And that was all member funded. 40% of the stuff on the second page is member funded, and still mostly hybrids. You see where I'm going? I know this might not be where you think this talk was going to go. I know this is boring for some of you, but I wanted to show this data bias with actual numbers to show you there is a reckoning coming, and it has been happening for a while, whether you know it or not. And I'm going to say something right now that might make some of you uncomfortable, especially if you're a manufacturer. If you are making new silencers today in July of 2025, be prepared for a level of competition that is simply different. Okay? It is literally different from when Pew Science started publishing things in 2020. In the 5 years we have been doing this publicly, the industry has changed. And it is all documented, it's all written down, it's all factual, tracked, referenced, chronological, and undeniable in the Silencer Sound Standard. There are those of you who have been in the silencers for as long as I have, for sure, and longer than I have. And I'm here to tell you, it's different now. I do not care who you are listening to this. I do not care who you are. Everyone from Joe Gadini to Greg Lotka listening, who've been around longer in silencers than anyone else listening, guaranteed, they know it too. That's facts. I don't care who you are, because I just mentioned two people that have been around silencers longer than you. Literally. I do not care who you are. Literally. In the world. So this year, you are going to see things that push the boundaries further than what is even on the current rankings table. And it's going to put some companies even further behind the tech curve, further behind than they are now. And I do not think this is plateauing. It's not slowing down, and it's not going to get easier for anybody. The only thing that's going to get easier is that there's going to be more silencer consumers. So that's great for companies because they can probably make more money because they're going to sell more silencers. Great. Good job. The performance challenges are going to get more competitive, and we're not even at the most competitive levels yet. You haven't even seen the potential of some of the technologies you've already seen. Some of the things you've seen over the past 2 years or 3 years, it's not even, the lemon hasn't been squeezed enough yet. And now imagine going new. Oh, okay. And you got to think about this. What are some things we've seen in the past year or so, like the past 12 months? Just looking at the 50 most recent records, just let's cut it off there. So we're hitting about 50 records back to July. So we're hitting about an average of a data point a week. It's 52 weeks in a year. Okay. So that's an average of a data point a week is a breakneck pace for research, for a public research program. It's actually insanity. So it's great. That means the data set is robust and we can draw conclusions from it statistically. So what have we seen? Ultra durable, secure, cool looking hybrid Knights armament stuff, right? What was the sauce in that one? Early venting, low back pressure, multispectral flash reduction, secure mount, sexy looks. Was it the best? No. 1 second. Was it the best? No, absolutely not. Was it cool? Oh, it has so much drip. Knights Armament silencers are some of the coolest silencers in the game. You aren't cool if you don't have at least one of those. I'm telling you right now. Are they the best? Absolutely not. Are they cool? You don't get much cooler. And that's okay if you don't like it. I'm just telling you. What else we see? We saw hybrid oversized Mythbuster time. What was that? Surefire 762 Mini 21556. Disaster. Bad idea. We proved why. That's right. We put that myth to rest. Oh, it's the same size as a 556 RC2. It's going to be the same. It doesn't matter. 556 is supersonic. Sonic, you can't suppress the sonic crack. Blah, blah, blah. No, loud, dumb. We proved why. We saw, what did we see? We saw Gemtech out of left field. Did okay, not great. Old technology, old company, new owners. Sometimes that happens, is what it is. Then what happened? Cat released their DD, the Dirty Dave. Okay, compact, advanced hybrid. Uh-oh. Crazy. People took notice. Then what happened? Vent 1 from PTR. Oh, okay. That was a huge deal. Killer silencer, one of the quietest things you can buy to this day. To this day. Insane. Guys, that was last year. Then what? Savage, simple monocore. That wasn't the big deal. What was the big deal? Savage Arms is getting in the silencers. Oh, okay. Market expansion. Then what happened? Cat SC. Oh my God. Okay. What happened then? Well, one thing was you start to see the major arms race form between PTR and Cat, which is crazy to watch. And the SC on its own is undeniably the craziest 9mm pistol silencer on record. Nobody that is alive right now can argue. Even though those in the silencer industry that are dead or recently dead could not argue. It is historic. And probably just as historic, if not more so, than the PTR Vent 1. For different reasons. And simply due to the silencer culture in the United States and the world. But even so. Then what do you got? Liberty Precision Machine. Huge underdog. Slept on all the time. Ultra high performance. Very technologically advanced. Good testing. Good designs. Developing company. Early Pew Science client. Really kicking butt, taking names, bringing absolute maddening hybrid performance to the mainstream with the Mach L. You start to see more things like that. Then out of nowhere, what happens? 3D printed off-grid suppressors. What? Hybrid design. Pretty good performance. Interesting. No-name company. No one ever heard of them, but they're here. That's happening more often. Then what happens? Huxworks. People didn't like the Flow 556K because it was loud at the muzzle. Okay, they made it bigger. They tightened the bore from the 762 Ti with a 556 Ti. SpaghettiOs. It performs well on high pressure or low pressure 556. That made people notice Huxworks again. They're still, the advancement in Huxworks tech over the past 5 years of this research has been nuts, dude. Now, Liberty Precision Machine again, Anthem S2. Again, incredible performance for the size. Then what do we go? Rugged Obsidian, hugely popular. I'm getting tired. Hugely popular. We showed why it was really popular. What did we also show? When you have really old, out-of-date technology, what happens to operator hazard? Yeah. What did that prove? Proved once again we're now in a different time. Imagine being rugged right now, dude. Imagine being rugged in March of 2020 when we dropped the Silencer Sound standard with rugged Oculus, and everyone's like, whoa, that seems pretty quiet. Imagine what they're doing now when the Mojave from Dead Air and the SC from Cat exist. Now the Obsidian 9 is completely obsolete technologically. With the Dead Air Mojave and the Cat SC, the rugged Obsidian 9 is now obscure. Into obscurity. That quick. Within the past year. 2 silencers killed it. 2 of them. And they're both modular, just like the Obsidian. Destroyed it. Completely. How is that for crazy? Yeah, it's insane. And then we're back to the B&T. We had the wipe stuff, and we saw and that was even great because we saw wipes can't polish a turd, and it doesn't help you if the silencer's primitive. So that was last year, guys, and you've seen this year. You got hybrids you got the Dead Air hybrid, Otter Creek, Centurion, Echo Zulu, Cat. Now Engaged Industries today. This is not slowing down. It's getting tougher, and I'm not saying traditional designs are dead. I am not saying that. I'm not saying, and you know what? When it comes to flow through, we talked about only one, the Huxworks. None of the rest are flow through. They're hybrid, because flow through is only Huxworks tech. So I'm not saying traditional designs are dead. I think they can still bring great value to the market and to end users. I think that's always going to be the case. But what I am saying, I think the tide has turned, and it wasn't overnight. This was like a frog in a pot of water that was getting heated up. This has been happening, and I think it probably started to happen. It wasn't only just a year ago. It probably started to happen in a big way when with the RC2, when Surefire borrowed tech from and before with the RC series, when Surefire borrowed technology from Ops. I'm saying that really politely and diplomatically. Okay. And I think that this has been cooking in a big way since then. And I think the next big, huge step after that was the Hyperion technology. That was probably the most famous in-your-face hybrid design extreme performance example. The Hyperion and all the associated spin-offs. And that roughly, plus or minus a year or two, coincided with the start of Pew Science. And since then, it has been war. So stay tuned. I think things are getting nasty competitive, and that is something I love because I'm very confrontational and aggressive. And so I think we can truly say this is indeed, I think, objectively the best time to be a silencer consumer in history. And I think there's going to be a whole lot more of you soon. And it's going to be fun to listen to this a year from now if you go back to this episode. But pending legislation, we might have an influx of new folks, which is awesome. So if you are just joining us, coffee's in the back. Okay, you need to find a seat. You strap in. We're going to have fun. Don't be scared. Have a good 4th of July. Please stay safe. Keep the fireworks pointed in a safe direction, as always. Shoot all your guns suppressed. Don't shoot in the air like a crazy person. I will talk with you folks again soon. We'll give you more data next week, which will start another run of insanity. Okay? Bye.